guys, so that is a standard transaction when you walk into a store. I bought some laundry detergent to use to clean our clothing. I paid $13.44 for the laundry detergent, 95 cents in tax, bringing my total to $14.39. So Walmart charged me 95 cents tax like they're supposed to. They do not keep that money. That money will be collected, stored, and sent to the state of Florida's Department of Revenue, that is our tax collecting service, in order to cover the sales tax due on my transaction. Had I ordered this item off of Walmart.com, just like if you had gone on eBay or Amazon, the same tax would have been due. Why? Because Walmart has a physical location in my state of Florida, and thus they owe sales tax on any transaction that they do. Whether it's a new item, a used item, whether they profited, whether they lost money, it doesn't matter. You owe sales tax when you complete a transaction inside of the state that the customer purchases the item from you from. I bought it here in Florida. If you lived in Georgia and you purchased from Walmart online and came and picked it up at my Florida store, Walmart still collects sales tax and sends sales tax to the state of Georgia where you bought it and paid for it, even though you might have picked it up here. It's wherever the item is bought and paid for from. And that's because Walmart also has a location in Georgia. If Walmart had no locations in Georgia, you could in theory, or Walmart could in theory, get out of paying the sales tax and sending it to the state. But Walmart has locations everywhere. So when we turn this over to an eBay business, on eBay, you are responsible for sales tax in the state that you are located. Again, I am from Florida. Anybody who purchases a piece of merchandise from me in Florida is supposed to be charged sales tax that I collect, 95 cents, and then send to the state of Florida every quarter. I collect it all up and I send it to them. Now, I don't have to charge the customer sales tax. I can just pay it out of my own pocket, which most people would say, well, why would you do that? Well, before today, one reason is because you wanted to have a better price than somebody that was charging sales tax, and you would pay it out of your pocket. The second reason is you would just include it into the price. Like if you wanted $100 for an item, sales tax $7, you may charge $107. And so that's the way that some people would do it. And because before today, which I'm gonna talk about in a minute, you were able to undercut some people that were charging versus people that were not, which is kind of what started the entire process of what occurred today. So what did occur today? The United States Supreme Court, SCOTUS, ruled that it's no longer okay to only collect and pay sales tax for items inside of the state of which you reside or your business is located, which covers business locations, inventory, employees, etc. It's called a nexus. That means anywhere you have employees, inventory, or locations, you are responsible for the sales tax. Today's ruling, however, makes it so that you are responsible for sales tax on every single transaction. Every person that buys a piece of merchandise on the internet, regardless of location, has to pay sales tax. The seller, that's us, has to collect that sales tax and pay the correct state that the customer was in. So if I sell an item, if I sell a Nike jersey to a gentleman in Colorado, I have to go to the Colorado Department of Revenue's website or location, bear with me, most of them have websites, register my business in their state, receive a sales tax certificate, and start paying them their 6%, 7%, 8% of whatever it is they have set in their state based on every transaction that occurs from somebody in Colorado. Same for Vermont, Virginia, California, every single state. And that is the difference in the ruling today. Now, it doesn't apply for 5 states. That's Alaska, Montana, Oregon, Delaware, and New Hampshire. I believe those are the 5 states. Somebody correct me if I messed one of those up. Those states have no sales tax. So the other 45 states, you would have to register with each and every state, collect tax for each and every transaction within that state that somebody bought from you, and pay them. You guys can see what kind of work and time and labor that would require. So with that said, there are a few things to remember, that the world is not ending on this, although it is very, very bad news. So Congress could still step in and set out some parameters and laws and somewhat overturn this back against the Supreme Court. However, when SCOTUS rules, it's typically pretty final. So I don't anticipate too much of that happening. However, South Dakota, who started this to overturn it, only put in a threshold of $100,000. So you have to do more than $100,000 in sales within South Dakota to owe them sales tax, which means most of us don't do $100,000 period. And if you do happen to be somebody that's a six-figure seller, it would have to be inside of that state. For example, if you did 20,000 in California, 20,000 in Virginia, you did 20,000 in 50 states and did $1 million in sales, you wouldn't owe sales tax to all those states, only the state you lived in, because you didn't hit the $100,000 threshold. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a threshold across the entire country, just for South Dakota. It could very well be that other states, state by state, require it if you just do $1 in sales. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. The other thing is, if this all turns out to be worst case scenario and we have to pay all these states and they don't create thresholds, then companies could come along who are able to collect the data, import our data, come up with the total, save us all that time, and simply just tell us on the beginning of each quarter, you owe California $10, you owe Colorado $15, here's the list, and either one, we could again still have to go to the website and pay them, or they could have programs in place where we just sign in, submit our bank account information, it withdraws and sends it to every state. Or eBay and Amazon could implement a service like that. So there are still outs, and it's not any time to panic yet. This would take a whole lot of worst case scenarios to really screw us. However, let me get into where the real details of this ruling are gonna hurt online e-commerce selling. I'm gonna jump back to my house, to my computer, and I'll go over how this really could negatively impact all of us. All right, here we are on CNN.com. Really doesn't matter which website you use because they all have the same story. They're all the deal. Let's recap it. Basically, previous to today, June 21st, 2018, if you had a presence in a state, meaning you were located in a state, you had inventory stored in that state, or an employee in that state, it's called a nexus, you were responsible to pay sales tax for any purchases made from customers in that state. As of the ruling from the Supreme Court today, you are responsible to pay sales tax on all states, regardless of your location, regardless of your inventory. You're responsible for sales tax in every state. However, the upside to this is that South Dakota set a $100,000 threshold. If you do not hit $100,000 in sales in each state, that's not total, that's per state, $100,000 in South Dakota, $100,000 in Vermont, you do not owe tax for that state. Most of us, most of the people listening to this video right now, do not hit $100,000 in sales, period, let alone $100,000 in sales per state. I do not do $100,000 in any given state. This will not affect me. I do quite a bit in Florida, quite a bit in California, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in some of these states, but I certainly do not do $100,000 per state. Think about if you were in all 45 states that charge sales tax, that'd be $4.5 million. This is definitely targeted towards big business. Be very careful of, freaking out, because this is not really targeting those of us that do 25, 50, 75, 100, or even 200,000 or 300,000 in sales. The likelihood that you'll owe sales tax in any of the states other than the state that you reside is very low. So that's our out. Now, South Dakota has implemented that threshold. The other states have not said yet. Remember, there's 45 states that charge sales tax, and the 5 that don't, I just said. It's New Hampshire, Montana, Delaware, Oregon, and Alaska do not have sales tax. But the other 45 states, or other 44 outside of South Dakota, have not stated whether they would keep that threshold. If they do, we're good. If they don't, then you would be responsible for every state based on, if they say, listen, if you make $1, you're responsible. So then we would have to pay it. At that point, it would be up to eBay and Amazon to either implement an internal program inside the website, which would do all the calculations, keep track of the sales, give you the total, and then, deduct the money from PayPal and disperse it to the states, or at least help you, get together what you need to send it out to the states. Maybe a program where it registers you to all the states, something along those lines would really be helpful. I don't know if eBay and Amazon will do that. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but that would be option A, the best option, should there be no threshold. Option B would be a third-party company. TaxJar is one that comes to mind, where they create the program. You basically export all your sales into it, and then they would do all the work for you as well. If neither of those happen, then it would totally be up to us to log into every state, register, file, calculate the money, and send them the money. That would be the ultimate worst-case scenario disaster for small sellers. and that would kill us. I don't think it's going to come to that. Screenshot and video record this video for evidence later, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that doesn't happen, and that either the thresholds happen or programs happen to help us out. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section. The world is not ending. We've got 3 different ways that this could, not really target small sellers. This is more aimed towards big guys, 2, 3, 4, 5 million plus. Maybe if you're a $1 million seller, you might get hit up in a couple of states. Let's say you're doing $1 million and half of it's to California, then yeah, you'd be responsible. But otherwise, I think those of you doing 20, 30, 50, 100,000 in sales, 200,000 in sales, you might be good to go as long as these thresholds are the same. So I will update you guys in the coming days, weeks, and months. Leave your comments below. Please be respectful. Just because we might have differences of opinions in the comment sections or on the video or anything else doesn't mean we have to act like children and yell at each other. We just had this discussion in my Facebook group today. So please keep it respectful. I will approve all the good comments. I would love to talk to you guys. I'll respond to as many as I can. And you guys know the routine. Make sure you do like this video, even though we may not like the story. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel for updated news and e-commerce stories, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, all that good stuff. And until next time, guys, enjoy your evening. I'll see you then.